There are moments when the world holds its breath, when the familiar lines of reality soften and blur into something unknown. It begins with the air, a sudden chill, a thickening haze that swallows sound and smudges the horizon. This is how our story begins, not with a bang, but with a creeping mist, a place where whispers seem to cling to the vapor, carrying secrets that long predate memory. This is no fairy tale. This is the setting for countless eerie arrivals throughout history, moments when the fog was far more than weather. It was a harbinger. Across time and across cultures, mist has been regarded with a special, almost sacred awe. The ancient Celts saw it as a living veil, a shimmering curtain between our world and the realm of spirits, the other world. When the fog rolled across the moors, it was not merely condensation. It was the breath of ancient gods, a sign that the boundaries were thinning, that something not of this earth was walking among them. In Japanese folklore, the swirling white mists are the roads upon which the yurei, the restless and sorrowful spirits, travel from the shadows into sight. Even in our most modern narratives, mist is never just a backdrop. It is an active character, one that shrouds and reveals, conceals and unveils, transforming the mundane into the menacing. But what is it about the mist that so deeply disquiets us? Science offers a simple answer. It is a cloud of tiny water droplets, a natural phenomenon that reduces visibility to less than 1 kilometer. Yet its psychological effect is far more profound. It doesn't just blur our vision, it dissolves our certainty. Familiar landmarks vanish. The path ahead becomes a question. Every sound is amplified, distorted by the dense air. The snap of a twig, the distant call of a bird, even the echo of your own footsteps can take on an otherworldly quality, forcing you to question what you truly hear and whether you are in fact alone.
One of the most chilling examples comes from the small English village of Pluckley, a place often called the most haunted in all of Britain. Locals speak of certain cold mornings when a dense, unnatural mist settles over the ancient churchyard. It is in this ethereal plume that the apparitions are said to appear. A spectral horse-drawn carriage, its wheels utterly silent on the dew-soaked grass. The tormented figure of the Red Lady gliding between headstones, her form half lost in the fog. Witnesses claim the mist does not simply hide these phantoms, it seems to give them substance, to birth them from the damp air itself. The arrival of mist has also sculpted the course of history. During the American Revolutionary War at the Battle of Long Island, General George Washington's forces were cornered, outnumbered, and facing annihilation. But as dawn broke, a heavy, impenetrable fog descended upon the East River. It was a cloak, a divine intervention that masked the Continental Army's daring retreat to safety. Historians still marvel at the timing, how this sudden shroud of vapor transformed an impending slaughter into a legendary escape.
Whether they are the product of artistic illusion, clever chemistry, or something far more sinister, these portraits have unnerved viewers for centuries. The idea of a living portrait is not new. In medieval and Renaissance Europe, devotional art often depicted saints whose images would miraculously shed tears or bleed, seen as divine signs by the faithful. One of the most famous examples is the painting of the Virgin Mary in Syracuse, Sicily. In 1953, multiple witnesses claimed to see real tears streaming from the plaster Madonna's eyes. The event drew thousands of pilgrims and ignited a fierce debate. Scientists later examined the portrait, discovering the fluid had a composition consistent with human tears, yet the phenomenon remains, to this day, officially unexplained. As we move deeper into the gallery, the line between art and the supernatural continues to blur. In Victorian England, a fascination with spiritualism gave rise to memento mori portraits, solemn paintings and photographs of the recently deceased. On occasion, these images would develop mysterious crimson streaks or dark spreading stains. Superstitious families saw them as messages from beyond the grave or dire omens. Historians today suspect these marks were the result of unstable pigments or flawed chemical reactions in early photography. But the chilling effect, the sense of a message from the dead, endures. Perhaps the most infamous bleeding portrait in modern culture is the legend of the Crying Boy. Painted by the Italian artist Giovanni Brigolin in the 1950s, this mass-produced print of a tearful young boy became the subject of a terrifying urban legend. The story claims that any home displaying the portrait is cursed to burn. In fire after fire, families lost everything, but amid the ashes, firefighters would reportedly find the painting of the Crying Boy, untouched and pristine.
Some versions of the tale even say the portrait's eyes follow you, and that in certain light, the boy's tears appear to turn to blood. An investigation by British tabloids in the 1980s traced the phenomenon to a fire-retardant varnish used on the prints, but a rational explanation has done little to extinguish the legend. These unsettling images tap into our primal fears, the horror of the inanimate coming to life, the notion that art itself can absorb and bear witness to tragedy. Modern artists continue to push these boundaries, using hidden reservoirs of red ink or digital screens to create interactive installations that weep or bleed. They invite us to confront our discomfort, to question the line between reality and illusion. As you wander this gallery, each frame seems to pulse with its own story, a mix of superstition, tragedy, and human ingenuity. They are more than just art. They are windows into the mysteries that haunt our imagination. But what if images that don't bleed or weep, but simply watch? Consider this photograph. At first glance, it is an ordinary artifact, a faded black and white snapshot, its edges curled with age. The faces stare out with that unmistakable solemnity of a bygone era. Yet every photograph holds layers, silent witness to forgotten stories and secrets tucked away in the background. Let us focus on the young woman, standing just off-center. Her dress is simple, neatly pressed, a style popular in the late 1920s. But notice her posture, shoulders held back, chin lifted, her eyes not quite meeting the camera's lens. Historians note how posture in early photography could reveal unspoken family hierarchies. Her stance suggests she is not merely a bystander. She is central to this moment, even if she is not in the physical center of the frame. Behind her, on a dusty windowsill, sits a small faded object, a ribbon barely visible. Using digital enhancement, we can see that its color was once a vibrant blue. In the context of the period, a blue ribbon might have been awarded at a local fair, perhaps for excellence in sewing or agriculture. This small clue reshapes the entire scene. It suggests a moment of personal achievement, a quiet celebration amid the otherwise stoic mood of the portrait. But the photograph's most haunting secret lies deeper in the background, a faint, almost ghostly figure, half obscured by shadow. Early photographic techniques required long exposure times, often capturing the unintended motion of a subject as a mysterious blur. Some would say this is simply someone who moved during the shot, but local oral histories tell a different tale. According to community records, the family pictured here had suffered a tragic loss the previous winter. The blurred figure, some believe, is not an accident. It is a deliberate tribute to a missing loved one, a way of including their memory in the moment forever. The photograph is therefore transformed. It is no longer just a family portrait. It is a historical document, a canvas of silent echoes. Each detail, the posture, the ribbon, the spectral figure, invites us to look beyond the surface. In doing so, we uncover stories of achievement, loss, and remembrance that would otherwise be lost to time. The secrets of this forgotten photograph continue to whisper, waiting for someone to listen closely enough to hear them. Sometimes, however, the story isn't whispered from the past. Sometimes it erupts into the present with terrifying violence.
The night air inside the gallery was thick with anticipation, but no one could have predicted the horror about to unfold. A crowd had gathered around a new masterpiece, a canvas rumored to be cursed by its creator. It depicted a haunting, ambiguous figure, its eyes seeming to follow each onlooker, its colors so vivid they looked wet. Whispers circulated about the artist's methods, tales of midnight rituals, and the unsettling rumor that he painted with his own blood.
Suddenly, a piercing scream tore through the murmurs. A young woman collapsed, her eyes locked on the canvas, as if it had reached out and seized her very soul. Panic detonated. The gallery lights began to flicker, casting grotesque, dancing shadows across the walls. Security guards rushed forward, but they were swallowed by the chaos as people clawed their way to the exits, desperate to escape the painting's sinister pull. In the pandemonium, a pedestal was knocked over and a priceless sculpture shattered, its crystalline shards glittering like frozen tears on the polished floor. Amid the bedlam, the artist himself appeared at the edge of the crowd, his face ashen, his hands stained a deep crimson. Witnesses later recalled how he staggered towards his creation, mumbling about sacrifice and the price of vision. With a trembling hand, he reached out to touch the canvas. In that exact instant, the gallery was plunged into absolute darkness. A collective gasp rose from the terrified crowd, followed by a sound that was unmistakable and unforgettable: the wet, heavy splatter of liquid hitting the floor. When the emergency lights finally flickered on, the scene was one of utter horror. The artist lay sprawled before his canvas, a dark pool of blood spreading beneath him, his eyes wide open in a lifeless stare. And on the painting's surface, new streaks of red had appeared, fresh, glistening, and unmistakably real. It was as if the artwork had finally consumed its creator, feeding on his obsession to complete its ghastly vision. The aftermath was chilling. Investigators found cryptic symbols scrawled on the back of the painting and strange stains on the gallery floor that resisted all attempts to be cleaned. Some guests reported feeling ill for days, plagued by nightmares of the figure in the painting stepping out of its frame. The media dubbed it the Blood Canvas Incident. The gallery closed its doors indefinitely, its reputation forever stained by the night that beauty and horror became one. But violence is not the only horror. The most profound terror often arrives not with a scream, but with a revelation, a truth delivered by the dead. The room grows cold as the ghost finally steps from the shadows, no longer content to haunt the fringes. This is the moment of unveiling, where the spirit reveals not just its presence, but its purpose. For so long we have speculated, what binds this restless soul to our world? Now the answers begin to surface as the ghost's story unfurls. Often this revelation comes in the dead of night, when silence sharpens every whispered word. The ghost's form coalesces, pale, ethereal, but with an undeniable weight of sorrow or rage. Its voice breaks the silence, recounting the life it lived, and more importantly, the injustice that chains it to this world. Think of the ghost of Hamlet's father appearing in full armor to reveal the secret of his murder, a poisoning committed by his own brother. This revelation is not merely an explanation, it is a catalyst. The ghost's purpose is to demand justice, to set in motion a terrible and necessary reckoning. But not every ghost seeks vengeance. Some seek closure or to offer a warning. In Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, the ghost of Jacob Marley emerges, weighed down by chains forged in life, not to seek revenge on Ebenezer Scrooge, but to save him. Marley's revelation is a desperate plea for redemption, a warning of the consequences of a life lived without compassion. The ghost's message is a gift of foresight, a chance for the living to change their ways before it is too late. This moment of unveiling is the story's emotional and narrative pivot. It transforms the ghost from a frightening enigma into a character with depth, motive, and a history of pain. We are invited to empathize, to see beyond the chilling exterior and understand the longing at the heart of the haunting. The ghost's revelation recasts the entire story, turning villains into victims and illuminating hidden connections. It is a reminder that unresolved truths linger, haunting not just old houses, but the hearts and minds of the living. And yet, even when the truth is revealed, is the story ever truly over? As the clock ticks past midnight and the wind howls through empty corridors, something stirs. A faint, persistent whisper coils through the air, a voice without a source, a message without an end. This is the endless whisper, the haunting echo that refuses to be silenced. It is more than just a sound, it is a presence. It is the chill that creeps up your spine in a warm room, the unshakable sense that the story is not finished. Paranormal investigators often report capturing these soft voices on sensitive audio recorders, fragments of sentences, single words, or unintelligible murmurs known as electronic voice phenomena. In the world's most haunted locations, from the Eastern State Penitentiary to the Tower of London, countless visitors report the same unnerving experience, a whisper in the darkness, drawing them deeper into the mystery. This endless whisper is a powerful cliffhanger, a thread of unease that lingers long after the lights come up. It plays on our most fundamental fear, the fear of the unknown. Our minds are wired to seek closure, to find answers. When a story ends with an unresolved whisper, it forces us to fill in the blanks. Was it a warning? A secret left untold? Or something more sinister, gathering its strength in the silence? That uncertainty is what makes a true haunting so effective and so memorable. Science may offer explanations, like the low-frequency vibrations of infrasound, which can induce feelings of anxiety and the sensation of a presence.
But even with rational theories, the allure of the endless whisper persists. It is the unanswered question at the heart of every mystery, the thread that pulls us back, time and again, into the dark. So as our story draws to a close, listen closely. The whisper is still there, soft, persistent, and eternal. It is a reminder that some mysteries are never truly solved, and that sometimes the most terrifying truths are the ones left unspoken.